Welcome to the Female Founder Friday podcast, a collection of inspiring conversations with the most interesting female entrepreneurs and small business owners. I'm your host, 𝐂𝐤𝐲𝐬, and together with my incredible guests, we'll explore the struggles of being a female entrepreneur, the most important lessons, and the future of women leaders in business. And I'm passionate about helping female entrepreneurs become the confident leader their team and their business really need. And that's why I've recently launched my 6-week mental fitness bootcamp. This amazing program will help you tackle your inner critic, tame your saboteurs, and tap into that sage inner voice that will help you be more positive. With a combination of a daily practice in the custom app, a weekly focus to increase your awareness, and regular group coaching sessions led by me, you'll build the mental muscles you need to quickly overcome the changes and challenges you're facing right now. And if you're ready to transform your leadership and your life, connect with me today at highvoltageleadership.ca/positive intelligence to learn more. On today's podcast, my guest is Nicole de Larzac. Like so many female founders, Nicole's whole outlook on life shifted after having her first baby. She had really loved her career in marketing and product development, working with some of the globe's biggest brands. But she also knew that she would need greater flexibility in her life moving forward. So she left her high-powered career behind, moved to Australia, and started a product business of her own. She quickly grew that business into 7 figures, but had to leave it behind when she relocated back to Canada. Now Nicole takes all of her energy, passion, and knowledge about product development and marketing and makes an incredible experience available to those women who have a great product and are driven to bring it to the world. Nicole's got some incredible ideas and advice to bring to us today, and I know you're going to enjoy this conversation. Hey, welcome back to the Female Founder Friday podcast. I have a great guest with me here today. I've got Nicole here. Nicole, thank you so much for being a part of the podcast, for coming to speak with me this afternoon. I am really excited to connect with you today.
Thank you so much for having me, Lindsay. I'm excited too.
Yeah, awesome. Awesome. Well, I'm really curious. I know, we sort of do reasonably similar things, but for slightly different people. You are a coach and you really focus on product-preneurs, right? And I'm really curious to hear more about that and what your journey is to getting into that sort of work.
Sure. Yeah, I'm a product business coach. And what that means is I focus on product-based businesses or people who want to launch a product business. So basically, I help them launch and scale their product business. And my mission is to make it more accessible because I think a lot of people feel like, oh, it's so complicated, I can never do that. But really, it's accessible to everyone. So that is my mission. And I leverage proven methods and strategies from my experience working in the corporate world with big brands to my own entrepreneurial experience to help entrepreneurs build their business.
I love that. So I have a really cool idea. I've got this cool product in my mind, and I come to Nicole and say, I need help to get this product to the world. Yes?
Correct. Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's my favorite type of client.
I love it.
People are like, I have this idea. I don't know what to do, but I've got this idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. Okay. So tell me, how did you get there? Like, what's your journey been?
Yeah, my journey's been a very windy journey, but I always believe that everything happens for a reason, and everything in the past has helped us get to where we are. So I started my career in marketing for big corporate brands like Kraft Foods, Coca-Cola. And when my husband and I, we were about to have kids, we decided we wanted an adventure. So we really wanted to move somewhere else in the world. And so we asked for a transfer, and he got a transfer with Nestle because he worked at Nestle, or still does actually. And I got a transfer with Coca-Cola, and we moved to Australia. And we lived there for almost 4 years. Yeah, it was very cool. I love Australia and miss it terribly.
Yeah.
Beautiful weather, of course. And as soon as we got there, I found out I was pregnant with my first child. And I was already working at Coke over there. So I just started, and basically 9 months later had my baby.
Yeah.
And so I was on mat leave, and I was going to go back, but there was just this feeling inside of me, and I'm sure the moms out there can appreciate it. I just couldn't see myself going back to that, of like that corporate, more than 9 to 5. It was definitely, a real commitment, a grind in some ways. Couldn't see myself going back. And I don't know what it was. Maybe it's the maternal instincts, the hormones, whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I felt like, oh, when this baby comes, I can't leave my baby.
Yeah.
So I was trying to figure out, what can I do to be at home with my baby so that I don't have to go back?
Yeah.
And I thought, well, starting a business is the way to do that. And how am I going to start this business? Like, what am I going to do?
Right.
So what happened was, we knew somebody in Canada who was running a business, and he was importing foods from South America and basically on selling them to different companies and grocery stores. And so I thought, well, I can expand your business over in Australia. So it was kind of, a really, not easy, but like a turnkey way to expand a business that already exists. And then I'd learned the ropes from him, because I didn't know how to run a business. I mean, I was in business, but I was never an entrepreneur.
Right.
So I learned everything from him, and that's the way it's going to go. So great. I thought, okay, I'll work on this while I'm on mat leave. And then it just so happened that, and this is interesting, I presented to the major supermarket buyer. There's basically 2 supermarkets in Australia.
Okay.
And I presented to the main supermarket buyer the products that we wanted to sell. And he said that he was going to accept it.
Oh,
so
cool.
Here I was. I'm like, wow, okay, I had a business right away. And so I went on to quit my corporate job, just told them I wasn't coming back. And then later on, I find out that, we were already started preparing all the paperwork and everything.
Yeah.
He decided not to move forward. So here I was, like, I quit my job, and now, I don't have a business because that's the main supermarket. Oh, I can't tell you. That was the biggest learning moment ever. And so it's okay, because it taught me resilience, because I just went, I'm going to make this work no matter what. I'm going to get into Woolworths, and I'm going to find a way. And so what I did was I worked on a different product line, pitched to a different buyer, got in through that. And eventually he came back to me, and he wanted the main product, which I wanted to get in. And eventually we sold to him, and it was all fine. But it took a little while, a lot of phone calls to get there.
So yeah, some real ups and downs, I bet.
Real ups and downs, but I learned a lot, and I learned, well, never to, take somebody's word for it is one piece of advice. But always to have that persistence and resilience. So anyway, that was just a little hiccup, but fast forward, I had a business in Australia. It was going very well. And it was basically, turnkey and super. It was a great way to get into products. Then we decided to leave Australia and come back to Canada. And I really had to sell my business at that point, because it was going to be too hard to run from here. So I decided to launch my own consulting business where I would consult for bigger companies. But I also wanted to help women who were like me in that position, who didn't want to go back to sort of that full-time job. And so just help them start a different business, a side hustle or some kind of business. And I decided to focus on products. And so that's where my coaching business started. I know that was a long story, but I just thought that was an interesting learning experience.
No. I mean, we were talking about this just before we started recording, but it sounds like a mistake and a great lesson there too. But I love that, and your journey. I think there's always a pivotal moment, and for many of us, especially as mothers, often our pivotal moment in our career journey that moves us from a corporate job into an entrepreneurial role is something around our family, whether it's I have a baby and I don't want to go back to work, I have for me, it was, I have a bad boss and I'm not putting up with that crap in my life anymore.
Yeah.
Or right. Like, so often for us, it has something to do with our family situations, and how we move into those, into starting our own businesses, because we think, wait a minute, we want our lives to look different. Right? Nothing,
Exactly.
nothing like having a baby especially the first one, to make you look at your life completely different. Like nothing is the same
Yeah.
after that, right?
Totally. And it gives you that motivation. Like I just had this drive, like I cannot go back. And so I have to make this work. And when you have that motivation, like a really strong why, it
Yeah.
just fuels you and pushes you forward no matter what.
It's so true, isn't it? It's so true. I love that. And then I love the lesson in, didn't sign the guy says, yes, I want your product, didn't sign the contract.
Yeah. I mean, he didn't actually sign the purchase order or anything.
Yeah.
So that's a lesson learned, that never take someone's word for it. And I tell that to my clients. Always get something in writing. And even if you have something in writing, things can change too.
Yeah.
So you always have to think of like, what's your plan B?
Yeah.
Because especially with retailers, they can basically delist you at any time, or tell you to take your product back when it's not selling through. They have so much power, so you just have to make sure you're prepared and you've kind of thought of all the different possibilities.
Yeah, totally. Totally. Considering all of those risks, right? Even if it seems like it's remote, really thinking it through and being prepared on the back end just in case.
For
Um,
sure.
but I love this word. I mean, you brought up that this really taught you some incredible persistence and resilience, along the way. I'm sure that that's been important
Yeah.
as you've gone on to build your consultancy.
Well, I can tell you that I learned that no just means later. Like no means not right now, maybe
Right.
later.
Yeah.
Because I had to call many times and have many times when I didn't get calls back. And I'd have to keep calling and keep
Mm.
bugging. And I thought it was bugging, but like I didn't love doing that.
Right.
And nobody loves when buyers aren't calling you back and you're kind of getting ignored and all that kind of stuff. But you just have to keep at it and just be resilient. Keep, trying, and you might fail and you may not get it the first time,
Mhm.
but think of like Steve Jobs, right? He kept trying and trying different ways, and so it's like, yeah, you just have to keep trying different ways to get to whatever you want, and it may not be the first method that you thought. It could be a different method.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that, right? Like, sort of the one door closes, maybe a window opens kind of philosophy, right?
Right. Yeah, it may not be the way you thought, and it could be a different way, but being open to different possibilities and trying different things is really important. And
Yeah.
then patience. Like, if you think of, I like to think of the bamboo forest, where like basically with the bamboo forest, a Chinese bamboo tree takes about 5 years to grow, and it has to be watered and fertilized in the ground, and it doesn't actually break through the ground for 5 years. And then once it breaks through the ground, it'll grow to 90 feet tall in 5 weeks. So think of your business like that, like you are planting seeds and you are constantly watering them and fertilizing and whatnot. And you may not see the fruits of your labor for a few years. And often that happens, but just you have to keep faith that those seeds are there, they are being planted, and they are going to grow. And so I think it's just patience, like not expecting things to happen right away.
I love that. I had no idea. Okay, totally. Yeah, I learned something today. I had no idea about bamboo, but what a great metaphor, um for being for being, being an entrepreneur and building your own business. That, yeah, it, like, you're going to have to do a lot of work and a lot of nurturing before
Mhm.
you're really going to see those incredible results that you want, right?
Right. Yeah. Because, you know, we always see social media and all these other people making great things, doing all these great things, talking this like, or showing us their sort of laptop lifestyle. And sometimes it looks like everybody else has got it all together. And why are they doing so well? And I'm not, and yada, yada, yada. And we can
Right.
often go down that rabbit hole. But just think of your own journey. And yeah, sometimes it takes time and everybody's journey is different. So
Yeah.
I guess that's another lesson, not comparing yourself to others.
Yeah.
Just your own journey is your own journey. Enjoy it, because that's the joy, really, is the journey to getting where you want to go. And like, where is this turn going to go? Who knows? It all kind
Yeah.
of happens in a different way. Yeah.
And it is tricky. You're right, because there's a lot of influence out there, right? And the more time you spend on social media, the crappy you feel about your whole life, for real, right?
I know.
All of it, like your house, your kids, your husband, your car, your job, like all of it. But it is challenging not to buy into that just a little bit, that I'm not as successful as I should be. And I'm using air
Right.
quotes, everyone. Should. You start shoulding all over yourself.
Yeah.
And you're right. The journey's not going to look the same as some Instagram influencer. It's just not.
That's right. Yeah. And you don't have to expect it to be like that.
No.
And
No.
often, you know, everyone's just showing their highlight reel. They're not really showing all behind the scenes.
Yeah, the hard, and you don't know. I find often you don't know how long they've been doing it,
Mhm.
and how much team or contractors they like, right? Like a lot of these people, I look at it and I think, oh wow, they have such an incredible coaching practice. Well, the truth is that they've been doing this for 15 years. Well, of course their practice
Mhm.
looks more evolved than than mine does, right? Like
Right.
I haven't been doing this as long. And maybe they have an entire team of people that help them make it look so easy. Right?
Mhm. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't know. I mean, like, it's very deceiving. What you see on social media is, it can, some accounts are great. They're actually very
Yeah.
realistic, but some are not. And
Oh,
so you just have to be careful. Just remember that you have your own journey and things take time. Sometimes things are quicker. You know, you
uh-huh.
could have an overnight success, but typically it's not an overnight success. It's
Yeah, it's a
years.
lot of hard work. Yeah.
Well, I don't want to say hard work. Like, I'd say, like, it can take time. Like, I don't want
Yeah.
people to feel like, oh, it's so hard, and so on. But yeah, it can take time, and you just have to be patient and be willing to try different things.
Yeah, totally. That's one thing for sure. I don't think it matters what kind of entrepreneur you are. You really do you have to be able to, and I'll use the hated word pivot. You have to be able to shift gears. You have
Hmm.
to be willing to be a continuous learner. You have to be like, those are things that, I have noticed every entrepreneur needs to have sort of those competencies, those capacities in order to be successful. The resilience, yes. The patience, absolutely. You have to be patient, which is not my virtue. So maybe that's why I get frustrated. Um, but you really do have to be willing to like change it up and shift gears and really, see what's next,
Mm.
with
Yeah,
with great vision, right?
that's right. Yeah, and having faith that what what you want to create is going to come. It's just, it hasn't been made into the physical world yet, but it's there.
It's
It's all
there.
there for you. Hmm.
Yeah, totally. I want to ask you, because you deal with um, folks that focus on a product, and I know that COVID has had such an impact on our distribution systems. Do you find that that's really playing a role with some of um, the clients that you work with? Is that holding them back, or are they overcoming that in our current sort of marketplace?
Yeah, it's definitely playing a toll on, I mean, all industries. And
Yeah.
there's back orders on, pretty much everything. Um, and it's yeah, who would have thought we'd have a paper shortage? Like, just it's not, yeah, like
The
what?
weirdest things, right?
The weirdest things. Yeah. So it definitely has an impact. And I was just actually doing a podcast with somebody who does stationery, and she had a paper and a glue shortage. So gluing, she couldn't glue her envelopes, and paper for her
Oh
paper. So it's not very good. But yeah,
no.
everyone has to navigate these things. And, it's unfortunate because some things you just can't control. Like, you just can't control those things. So
No.
talk about pivoting. Sometimes you have to figure out different things that you can control or what you can do. Yeah. So it's tough.
Yeah.
But I mean, the other upside around COVID is that e-commerce has just boomed, and
Yeah.
there's all these new opportunities for everyone to start an e-commerce business because everyone's more open to buying online now, and it's accelerated our e-commerce industry by years.
Oh,
So that's been really interesting to see all these new businesses popping up just because e-commerce is an opportunity, but also people are kind of thinking of their lives differently. Like, maybe I don't want to be in that corporate job. Maybe I want to start something, and they're thinking of different ideas, and they've got more time, so they decide to start a
love it.
business.
Yeah, it has been really interesting to see, like, people have done some really cool creative things in the last 2 years that maybe they never would have done.
That's right. Yeah. They wouldn't
Yeah.
have thought about the idea because they didn't have the time before, or it made them reflect more on their lives and how they want to make a difference in the world. Like,
Yeah.
so many people are starting businesses at this point.
Yeah, totally. Well, I mean, if nothing else, I think, COVID has made us really reconsider what are the most important things in our lives,
That's
right?
right.
So again, another pivotal moment, whether, for whether you lost your job or it was just, hey, we can't go anywhere, or, what does this look like when we do return to the office? And wait a minute, I don't want to go back to an office environment. That's not for me, right? Like, I think it's making us reconsider all of the things that are important, and reevaluating maybe what just doesn't fit anymore.
Yeah, totally. I think a lot of
Yeah.
people are having different, not midlife crisis, but it's more like a COVID life crisis. I don't know
COVID life crisis. No, but it's
if
true.
there is such a thing. Yeah.
Yeah, no, but you know what? Maybe that's the phrase, a COVID life crisis. We should trademark that. I think, but I think it's true though, right? Like, nothing like facing, what is like universally global fear, anxiety, all of those
Mm,
things, to really make you reevaluate, like, what is really important to me?
yeah. Yeah.
What do
So
I
it can,
really need? What do I have that is not adding value in my, like, all of that conversation, right?
yeah. And I think that's brought up a lot of thoughts for different people. So I think in some ways it has been beneficial. And I mean, even for people who have the ability to work from home virtually more than they did before in the
Yeah.
corporate world, like that has been a benefit, I think, for the work-life balance for many people. So yeah, there's different pluses and minuses of
Oh,
what's happening in the world, but of
totally.
course we want it to get back to normal soon.
Yeah, I think we all are ready for it to be over. I don't
Yeah,
know
I know.
anyone that's saying, "Yay, let's, stay home under restrictions for another year."
Yeah, that's
I
right.
think I think we've all kind of had enough. And hopefully, 2022 is the year where
Right.
we can start to resume some of the activities that we know and love without, the restrictions that we have, because I don't know anybody that likes the restrictions either. Um,
Yeah.
I do want to ask you, sort of as we, come to the towards the end of the conversation, is about, your philosophy around leadership and how you lead, because you work with a variety of clients in their businesses. How does that show up for you, Nicole?
Yeah, sure. That's such a good question. I think that, well, number one for leadership, I see leaders as having a vision bigger than what other people may not see.
Yeah.
So for my clients, I like to think of their business as much bigger than they ever would have thought. And I like to see things in them that they don't see in themselves,
Yeah.
and just sort of see the possibility. So I think like that would be the number one for me is leaders have a vision, they see the possibility, and they can inspire others to follow that vision, even though, as I said, like it's not in the physical world yet. It's like sort of just a seed of an idea, or
Yeah.
it's just something that's out there.
Yeah.
That's the first thing. And then another thing would be, you probably heard this phrase before, but leaders take 100% responsibility. At first, I found that very difficult because it's like, well, I can't be responsible for everything. I mean, what if somebody in my team on my team does this and they made this mistake? It's not really my fault. But if you actually do take the responsibility, it really shifts a lot of things. And I personally found that really helpful in terms of any kind of work that I do, taking that responsibility and going, okay, what could I do to change the situation rather than just being the victim? Because when you
Yeah.
blame other people, you are the victim. But when you take 100% responsibility, you are the one who
Yeah.
can change anything, really, and you've got the power. So I think that is the second thing. And I think the third thing would be I love to see the best in people. And I really do believe that humans are fundamentally good.
Yeah.
And so I try to give others the benefit of the doubt whenever possible, whether it's a teammate, somebody who's working with me, a client. I always like to think they have good intentions and come from that place rather than thinking, oh, this person,
Yeah.
this is what they wanted to do, and because
Yeah.
that's not that never puts you in a good state of mind, and
No.
and it doesn't help anyone else to want to work with you. So
No.
yeah, I would say those are the three things that I'd say that I try to stick to.
Those are three pretty amazing things, Nicole.
Thank you.
I love it. I actually just gave a talk at TD Bank just the other day, and these things really were a part of the conversation that I had with them, because I think you're right. I think great leaders do see with great vision, with great clarity, and I think they have the ability to enroll others in that vision. Right? They're often really great storytellers. Like you
Mm,
think about, you mentioned earlier, like Steve Jobs. I mean, he would get up on that stage and he was so compelling. And everybody was just, you could see when they panned to the audience and they're just mesmerized, like they just couldn't get enough. Right. They take high level responsibility. Right.
right.
I own this. And if you made the mistake, then somehow I need to own that too.
Yeah.
Right? I
Yeah.
didn't train you well enough. I didn't communicate with you well enough. There's something here that I'm meant to learn. And I think
Mhm.
that is absolutely crucial. And I wholeheartedly agree with number three. And I would tell you that I'm come from that philosophy too. I believe people want to do great work. I believe that everybody wants to show up and give their best every day.
Yeah.
And I've absolutely had people argue with me that, well, no, they don't. Like people want to get away. No, I actually think people want to use their skills to the best of their ability and they want to do meaningful work.
Right.
Right. And when you match those two things up, then yeah, it's magical. Right.
Hmm. Yeah.
So I love these sort of three pieces of your leadership philosophy. They really resonate.
So glad to hear. Yeah, no, actually the third point, a big test of that, and I've seen companies do this lately, like some of the more advanced companies. Have you heard of unlimited vacation?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they'll give unlimited vacation. And when I first heard that, I'm like, oh, okay, well, everyone's going to take advantage of that. But in fact, people don't take advantage of it. They
Yeah.
actually like struggle to take their vacation because they're so responsible. They want to do a great job. And so they don't end up taking all their vacation. Like, I don't know how many weeks of vacation they do take, but it's interesting. Like when you
Yeah.
give that freedom to someone and hold them accountable, they're not actually going to take advantage of it.
I worked for an organization that instituted that several years ago. And I was part of the HR team. So I worked with some of the senior executives, helping their teams really understand, and then overall implementing the program. And you're right. What we found was, first of all, sick time actually went down because people were working in this circumstance, they were working from home. So instead of, being, and also you didn't bring your cold to work, but they could take the time that they needed. And if they didn't need it, they didn't take it. Right. But also, you're right. We had to encourage people to make sure. We actually went back in and said, everyone in the company has to take at least 3 weeks of holidays every year.
Wow.
Because they weren't taking, and it's actually really important that you take that time to recharge. You need that, right? Everyone needs that. Doesn't matter what job you're working at, what level you're working at, what accountability you're working with. You have to take time away to get your brain cells back together, right?
Yeah.
But you're right. I think, people do, if they love what they do and they love where they work, they don't mind working.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think as leaders, it's our responsibility to create those spaces and then shoo them away to take, a couple weeks off so that they can come back and do even better. Right.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's all about the trust. Yeah. Of course, if somebody breaks their trust, then you got to have that conversation. But
yes. Yeah. 100%. But you're right. It is about trusting your employees, isn't it?
Yes. Yes. Trusting. I mean, I guess it depends on what type of business this is. If you have employees or you have contract people or
Totally.
whoever it is, it's just trusting that like your agreements are going to be kept and that they are going to do the greatest job of their ability. And if they're not, then then you have that conversation, or you take 100% responsibility and think about what you could have done to help train that person differently or whatever.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, Nicole, I really love that. No wonder we get along so well.
Yes.
Clearly we have a great deal in common. So I think that's awesome that you offered so much richness to the conversation today. So thank you so much for spending some time with me. It has been absolutely wonderful to have this chat with you today.
Thank you so much for having me on your show. I'm super honored that you have me. So thank you. And I really love what you do for women entrepreneurs.
Oh, thank you so much, Nicole. I'm so glad that we got a chance to connect.
Likewise. Thank you.
To everyone tuning in today, thanks for being a part of the Female Founder Friday podcast. I really loved Nicole's belief that leaders have to have a vision and they have to inspire others and enroll them in that vision. I just couldn't agree more. You can find out more about Nicole and what she does on her website, which is nicole.larzac.com. And of course, you can find out more about me on Instagram, and my handle there is @HighVoltLeadership. The Female Founder Friday podcast has a goal to impact 1,000 listeners. And it would mean the world to me if you left this episode a 5-star review and shared it with all of your friends. Let's engage 1,000 female entrepreneurs and really amplify the message. Thanks again for being part of the show today. And don't forget to connect with me at highvoltageleadership.ca.